Hi, colorblind architect out here, just out for another run. And normally, I don't like making videos like this out in the middle of a run because honestly, I'd rather be running. But I felt like I needed to. My heart's swaying pretty heavy right now. In fact, that's actually why I'm out for a second run today. I actually already ran this morning, but just my heart was so heavy that I just felt like I needed to go out and get another run in just to help me process. You see, one of my best friends, his dad just passed away, and that's hard enough. But also my brother-in-law's dad also passed away this week, and then also a young man who I was a scoutmaster to, his grandma who raised him, basically. She just passed away this morning as well. And my heart's heavy. I'm I'm struggling with it because, it's like death is normal, We all face death. Much like this sunset over here. I mean, sunsets are inevitable. They happen every night. And every single one of us, we don't get out of this life alive. I mean, we all pass away. So, it is that. And much of my thoughts are also on the people who are suffering around the world, especially, suffering from war, suffering from just devastation and all sorts of problems. But, I especially think about a lot of the news that I'm hearing out of Ukraine, and it just keeps going. Years and years of being bombed by the Russians, and some of the attacks that happened most recently included a hospital, included a passenger train full of children, included an apartment building and these targets were nowhere close to anything justifiably military. It was truly a war crime. As an architect, my whole career is about building the future. My job is to imagine the future, to foresee the future, and to create realities that don't exist now, but will through construction. And yet even that has death. Because ultimately those buildings are meaningless without the people that go in them. It's like, I think often as architects, when we design things, we're designing them kind of in a vacuum sometimes. Sometimes I think often, it's like, it's this pretty little object in our minds, and we create it, whether through sketching or through modeling or through the computer, and even through the visualization. But it's not real. It's not meaningful until people inhabit it. Because that's the whole reason why we do these buildings, is to create spaces for life to exist. It's not devastating when Russia blows up a building in Ukraine by itself. Because if it's just a building, buildings can be replaced. And although obviously I don't think any of us wants to see wanton destruction for no reason. But the reason why it's so hard on all of us as we look at that is because there were people living and working and being in those places. That apartment building, I think it was a 13-story apartment building, that the missile went right through it, killed like 30 people, I think, and injured hundreds. And, you know, that's a lot of death and destruction. The actual building itself, the architect who originally designed it, I mean, I'm sure that building, it looks like it's a socialist apartment block, so it was probably designed and built during the Soviet era. And so I don't even know if anybody knows the name of the architect who designed it. And frankly, it doesn't matter. You know, you think about all the buildings built by famous architects. You know, we think about Frank Lloyd Wright's Falling Water, or Guggenheim Building, or I.M. Pei's Louvre Pyramid, or, you know, Frank Gehry's Guggenheim Bilbao, or, you know, Zaha Hadid's many amazing structures, Moshe Safdie. In fact, we've got a Moshe Safdie building right here in Utah. It's the Salt Lake City Public Library, and it's actually a very beautiful structure. And it's interesting that these buildings, you know, a lot of times as architects, we think of the architect who designed it, because I think in a way we put so much effort into our own designs, our own structures that we bring to life, that I think we want so desperately to make sure that the credit goes to the architect, because I think in a sort of selfish way, we feel like if we don't honor the architects who designed these buildings that they designed, that somehow will be forgotten too. And ultimately, I almost feel like it's vanity. I almost feel like we're such selfish pricks sometimes, you know? Because those buildings aren't about who designed it or who built it. It's about who lives in it. The lives, the individual lives of each person who live in those buildings, inhabit those buildings, work in those buildings, make the things happen that make the reason why that building even exists in the first place. I mean, because if it wasn't for the lives lost in that apartment building, if it wasn't for the people who had lived there, there would have been no purpose in that building having ever been built. And therefore, there would have been no purpose in the architect who designed it to have ever designed it, other than maybe they were just sketching, doodling for no other reason than it's fun, it's enjoyable to design. But no, we design because of the people. And right now, my heart is heavy thinking about the people whose lives are ended. That's a loss to all of us. Because each life that's lost, that's a bright star in the constellation of humanity. And I know this is really cheesy, but I don't know. I don't know who of you watching this needs to hear this tonight. But there it is. Those are my thoughts. I'm gonna pound out a few more miles of running. And as I do, I'm just going to think of my good friend's father. I knew him too. He was a good man. He's going to be missed dearly. Peace out.